Hello, and welcome to today's episode of 9 to 5 Wellness Show. Today, the topic that we are going to discuss is getting out of your comfort zone. And I am super excited about it because stepping out of your comfort zone is important for your well being. Embarking on health and wellness journey requires change and some risk taking. A lot of us get too used to of our lives the way they are, and we are just used to of certainty, and we are resistant to making lifestyle changes that would lead to growth and that always involves new experiences. And that's the only way to change where you want to go from where you are and become a healthier version of yourself. So I have an amazing guest and a friend with me today, Tim Conniff. Tim is a comedian and a keynote speaker. In his day job, he's a sales director for a pharmaceutical company. And we are going to talk all about getting out of your comfort zone with Tim today. Welcome to the stage, Tim.
Hi, Ayesha. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. How have you been?
I've been very good. Very good. Life's good. Yeah, just dropped my youngest off at college, so we're officially empty nesters now. So exciting times here.
Oh, that is exciting. I'm going to drop off my oldest in 2 weeks. So his school starts a little bit later. So we have a few days. But yeah, I hear you. That's very exciting. I want to talk about you first. I love learning about my guest's journey. So tell me about your journey to becoming a comedian.
Wow. Okay. So, it all started about, say 30 years ago, fall semester of 1989 at the University of Scranton, my alma mater. And it was Speech Com 101. And the professor gave us an interesting assignment. And she said, I want you to go out of your comfort zone and come back and give a speech about it. So I was a broke college kid, from Scranton. Skydiving was out of the question. That wasn't going to happen. So I happened to see in the Philadelphia Inquirer that they had an open mic at the Comedy Works down in Center City. So I was like, this could be my opportunity here to get a good grade in this class because it tied in public speaking. So I jumped into my luxurious brown Ford Tempo and I drove 2.5 hours from Scranton to Center City. And I waited in line with 30 other comics. And open mics, you just show up and they pull your name and you get up on stage and go. And I did 5 minutes of stand-up comedy for drunk Philadelphians. That was my entree into stand-up comedy. Yeah. And, I got laughs. I couldn't believe it. I got laughs and I was so excited driving home to come back and give the speech about it. And I did, and I got an A. And then for 30 years, I did absolutely nothing with stand-up comedy. Nothing. Became got a job, husband, father, coach, did all those things and got away from it until my youngest, who just went away to college, decided that he was going to retire from basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you did all the regular things first, and then you
Yes.
then you went back. You went back to following your passion. Seems like you really enjoyed the comedy gig you did in college.
I did. It was so long ago that I couldn't even, I tell the jokes like I couldn't remember one joke I told. I wanted to record it, but I left my phone at home attached to the wall in my kitchen. So I have no recollection of anything that happened that day. So, but I've always been a fan of stand-up comedy. I'd like to go to shows here at the local comedy cabaret in Doylestown, where I live. And I've been going there since the early 90s. And I like to do things to push out of my comfort zone to challenge myself. And this seemed like a good marriage of the two. And really what happened is one night back in December of 21, my wife, Deb, and I went to watch an open mic. And I saw 15 comedians get up on stage and do their 5 minutes or so. And I was motivated. I had an I can do that moment. Too often we go through life. And that, the number one thing people say to me, Aisha, when I tell them I'm a stand-up comedian is, oh, I could never do that. I can never do that. And they started to say, I started to hear that so often, like when I told them I ran a half marathon or I do hot yoga for 90 minutes in a room heated to 104 degrees with 50% humidity. They're like, I could never do that. It got to the point where I'm like, no, you'd probably die. Don't do it. So, but we got to turn those I can't do that moments into I can do that moments. So I left the open mic that night And I emailed the club owner and I said, I want to get on your next open mic. And he said, you're on. And it was January 7th of 22. And this time I climbed up on stage again and looked at those big bright lights and told jokes to drunk people from Doylestown. And
Yeah.
I got laughs. And he pulled me aside. He said, that was really good. I'd like to bring you back and give you 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. He's like, let's see where it goes. And then the journey took off almost, I guess, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I love it that you just did it. Like the Nike slogan, right? Just do it. You thought that, oh, I have this aha moment. I want to try it again. And you just were like, okay, I'm going to show up at the next open mic. So why is some like discomfort actually good for us? Because I'm sure like you weren't comfortable going up the first time,
No,
right?
no. And listen, you're one thing you and I have in common is Toastmasters. And you know what it's like when you go to that first Toastmasters meeting, the first time they call your name for table topics, you know what goes on inside your body, right?
Yeah, you're
And
shaking. I was shaking.
yeah, yeah. But if you were at a Toastmasters meeting this week and they called on you for table topics, you would get up and you would do a great job for 1 to 2 minutes and maybe still have a little uneasiness, but nowhere near what it was when you first started Toastmasters many years ago. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing with stand-up comedy. So, the first time I got up, yeah, there was nerves and I had to practice a lot and I was going through like playing games in my head and everything. But now, close to 300 shows later, you get up and you go. And there's still maybe some nerves, or the nervousness is like I want to do good for the audience. People come out and pay $30, $35 to see a show. I want them to see a great show. So there's that type of anxiety to do well for the audience, but I'm not worried about what if I bomb? What if people I was gonna say, what if people laugh at me? Actually, what if they don't laugh at me? That's really the issue in comedy. So I think it's growth. It's building resilience.
Yeah.
It's building
Yeah.
resilience, because the first time I told a joke on stage that didn't get loud, you turn red. I turn red because I'm Irish. You get really red and you start to sweat, and it's just a terrible feeling. But no, if I tell a joke and folks don't laugh, it's fine. I move on to the next joke. I don't let it bother me. So I think it helps you to build your resilience muscle as well.
Yeah, yeah, just like you said, like you're not that uncomfortable anymore, right? That discomfort is gone. And I want to say that a lack of risk taking results in a lack of growth, just like you mentioned. But as you keep on doing it, as you keep on practicing it, you just keep on getting better at it, and it doesn't feel the same way. It doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore. It doesn't feel like you are getting out of your comfort zone. And when we fail to do that, and I say this as a coach, when I coach my clients, our progress plateaus, right? Because we are
Mhm.
staying with what's familiar to us. So, pushing the envelope and trying new things, it challenges your beliefs, it changes your mindset, and it really helps us reach for our full potential. So, awesome. I mean, I just love your story. So, but I have to say, doing all of this that we are talking about is often easier said than done. So, why do we like to stay within our comfort zone?
I think part of it is our wiring, the old caveman wiring. We didn't want to get eaten by dinosaurs and lions and things of that nature. So we are wired to make sure we stay within safety and we protect ourselves. I think that's also transferred to us psychologically and emotionally as well. Because it's probably good that we have a certain amount of fear. Like I'm not telling anyone to go, try to jump over a moving car or anything crazy like that. Like that's not what I'm saying here. So I think that is definitely part of it. Like we're wired that way. And I think the other thing is we get in a rut. We get in a
Yeah.
rut and we just don't even realize that 2 years went by. And I just realized for the last 2 years, I punched in, went to work, punched out, came home, had some dinner and watched Netflix.
Yes.
And that was it. So I think we have to be intentional about it
Yeah.
too and figure out what is something that I can do. And it doesn't have to be, going into a hot yoga room for 90 minutes or running a half marathon. It could be
Mm.
trying a new recipe, a new restaurant, listening to a podcast that you normally don't listen to, just something different to shake it up a little bit and move out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, listening to 9 to 5,
Nine
right?
to five. Well, I did. Hey, I will say, we talk a lot about like the psychological and mental, emotional discomfort zone, but there's also the physical. And when you're whether lifting weights or running, it hurts, and that's how you're going to see growth. I was thinking about your podcast on VO2. Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
VO2 max.
VO2
Yes,
Max,
yes.
yeah. So I listened to that. I really didn't know a lot about VO2 Max. I heard that. I was like, okay. So I set up VO2 Max on my watch right now. So I'm looking at that, monitoring it, and trying to get it higher because you told me I'm going to live longer if I do that. So that's the only reason I want to live longer. And when I'm doing those sprints to try to get that, I'm like, this is not comfortable. This is not fun. I don't like Ayesha today. But I know when I see my VO2 max creep up, I'm like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm growing. My lungs are getting better.
Love that. Love that you're applying the VO2 max principles. And you're right. Physiologically, like we are wired to seek comfort
Mm-hmm.
and certainty because it means safety and security for us. Your mind will always justify not to go through it. Like, you'll come up with 1,000 excuses not to do something
Oh,
that
yeah.
would take you out of your comfort zone. But it's important that you embrace some discomfort, and that's where the true magic of life happens. And talking about the physical discomfort that you just brought up, like going to a hot yoga class or running a half marathon, maybe you don't want to do that next week, but maybe you can start with a 30-minute yoga class, just a regular yoga
Right.
class. Try it out,
Start
right?
small. Start small for sure.
Yeah, try it out. And same thing with running. Like, maybe just start with 400-meter sprints and see how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something, do something new though. And physical stress or distress that you put your body through, that always translates into mental growth as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when your body is strong, your brain and mind is strong. So, great. Any tips for our listeners on how to get out of and expand their comfort zones?
Yeah, I think you want to be intentional. You don't want to just, if you're not interested in running or hot yoga, don't do running or hot yoga or Toastmasters. Do something that you're genuinely interested in, that you want to explore growth. So be very intentional about it. And like you just said, start small.
Yeah.
Don't try to run a marathon tomorrow. That's not wise. I think you want
Yeah.
to identify your fears too. Like, what is holding you back? What scares you about this? Because I think that's really the number one thing why people don't try the bigger things. Like, it's easy. Okay, I'm going to go try a new recipe. If you fail, you lose your $20 of ingredients or whatever. But running that 5K or going to a Toastmasters meeting, that's a little scarier. So you really want to identify what's that's all about. And I think a lot of this is learned fear too, because when I do sometimes when I do a corporate event or a private party, I will end the show with this game called Dueling Dad Jokes. We're all familiar with dad jokes, those corny jokes that are on TV our dads used to tell. And what I do is I have them on a basic index card, and I ask for volunteers. And I did this at a 40th birthday party down on the main line. So there was like 50 people, 22 millennials, and 28 kids running around. And I asked for volunteers at the end to do this dueling dad joke game. And I was met with the sound of crickets, just like
Yeah.
it sounds right now. As a comedian, that's fine. I'm very comfortable with that sound now. But all they had to do was come up and read an index card. So finally, a guy named Eric raised his hand. He came up and he and I went back and forth and told jokes. And everybody gave him a big round of applause. And so, what's the moral of the story? Be like Eric? No. He didn't come up on a motivation. He came up over obligation. If you've been in corporate America enough and if you've run enough meetings, if you ask the question, you wait silently long enough, someone will rescue you. And he did. So here's
Yes.
what I did that day. I also brought a handful of kids' jokes, which are essentially the same thing as dad jokes. And I said, before I go today, are there any kids who would like to come up and tell a joke? Ayesha, you would swear I put out a bowl of Halloween candy. They couldn't get to the microphone fast. They were elbowing grandmothers to get out of the way. It was amazing. This one little 6-year-old girl came up and I said, would you like one of my jokes to tell? She said, no, thank you. I have my own. And she killed it. She was great. She was so funny. So I think sometimes we just got to channel our inner 6-year-old and do
Mm.
it and just do it, because these kids had no fear. They
Yeah.
didn't go up there thinking, what if no one laughs? They just thought, this is cool. I get to go up and tell a joke in a microphone with a speaker in front of 50 people. This is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to grow up. You
No.
you you can be a 6-year-old your whole life. Yes,
Yeah.
do that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. As we become adults, right? We start becoming more conscious about ourselves and what people are thinking of us.
Yes.
Because now we are so conscious of the judgment.
Yeah.
And that in itself is, I think it's a topic for another day, but that in itself stops us from getting out of our comfort zone. But if we just tapped into our inner child,
Mhm.
just like you said, we would be able to get over the fear. So, how do you think people can find out like where that boundary is for them? That, okay, maybe not signing up for the half marathon, or maybe not going to the Toastmasters meeting, but trying a new restaurant. Like, any tips on how to figure that out?
Listen, I think you just got to expose yourself to different things. Something you see online. If you find yourself reading something that sounds interesting, or you see something on TV, then maybe there's something inside you that is saying, "Why don't you give it a try?" And I think the other thing that when you said like, how can people get into it? Any tips? I think the other thing I would mention is find a support group, like a Toastmasters, like a running club, knitting club, learn a new language club. There's clubs for everything these days, whether it's virtual, online, or live and in person. You could find a support network for just about anything that you want to get involved in. So I think that would help too.
Yes, community.
Yeah.
Community is key because if you're part of a community, there are so many people who have been there like you, right? They started just like you, and they would encourage you, they will give you tips and the tools to become successful.
Hmm.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. And for that, I mean, I have to say Toastmasters is great for public speaking and stand-up comedy too, right?
Well, so I didn't start. It's funny because like right now I'm mentoring a couple 15-year-olds who want to do stand-up comedy. And they're like my comedy palindrome because they're starting when they're 15. I didn't start till I was 51. However, I did have 10 years of experience in Toastmasters. So I was used to being honest and corporate America, tons of running meetings and getting in front of large groups. So I had a certain comfort level. I had certain skill sets in terms of eye contact, vocal variety, hand gestures, the things that you learn in these environments that are transferable to stand-up comedy. I still had to learn how do you write a joke, how do you handle hecklers, all those other nuances of the art form that I had to learn. But I had a lot of fundamentals in place that were, what I would say very transferable to this art.
Yes, yes. No, I agree. It's so you had that foundation. What you're trying to describe is you had that foundation. And a lot of times it does take at least 8 to 10 years of building that foundation and then actually going into or starting to see any results for anything that you do, which is out of your comfort zone. So, and honestly, I think this is what you started with, right? Like the resilience part.
Yeah.
That's where the resilience comes from, like the endurance,
Yeah.
because you'll keep on doing it. And then one day you'll be like, oh my gosh, I got a standing ovation and I
Yeah.
made this much money out of a show. Like, all of that then comes together. Or you ended up at a big stage. So, that's how it happens. So I'm now curious a little bit that like, what benefits have you reaped of getting out of your comfort zone? Maybe they were directly for your comedy side gig, or maybe there were even benefits that you started seeing in other areas of your life, in your family life, and in just your personal yourself. What do you think? What changed?
Well, we talked a lot about resilience. So I believe, even though I only did stand-up comedy one time when I was in college, I did take strength from that when I had to get up as someone very young in their career and give a group presentation, even if it was just to my sales district or something like that. I was like, I stood in front of 40 drunk Philadelphians and told jokes. I can do this, So I always had that to like kind of draw from. And as strange as that might sound, I did lean on that a little bit. I think the other thing is, the relationships that you form too. So I would say confidence, that resilience leads to confidence. But then in the last 3 years, I've exposed myself to so many new people between other comedians, speakers, folks in NSA, booking agents, audience members that have come out to see me a few times. We become friends and Facebook friends, and I see them at shows. So all these rich relationships that I have developed and new friendships that have helped me grow as an individual wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that I can do that moment. And if I weren't willing to step out of my comfort zone and get on that stage on January 7th of 2022 and say, I'm going to give this thing a try.
Love that. I love the fact that you have been able to build relationships with people. And I think that's one of the best benefits of public speaking, like in whichever form you're doing, that you connect with your audience members
Mhm.
and you can have rich relationships. And I'm sure it also ends up boosting your self-confidence, right?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because stand-up comedy is a lot about confidence. So
Yes.
much about confidence. Because
Yeah.
I know that there's jokes I told early on that didn't get a lot of laughs, that weren't very funny, that I'll try to like re-implement today and I get laughs. Now, am I a little bit better than I was 2 years ago? Yeah, for sure. But I'm more confident than I was 2 years ago. So you got to be able to stand up there, because when people tell, here's a joke you could tell on stage. Well, number one, I didn't write it. I'm not going to tell it. Number two is like, I wouldn't have the confidence in that joke either. So you have to be able to make sure that you have confidence in your material. And, the other thing I think about is just how important failure is in our
Yes.
lives, and especially stand-up comedy. When I do my keynote talk, it's called "Your Comfort Zone is No Joke." The three key points I try to get across to the audience is: one, you got to get out of your comfort zone to grow personally and professionally. Two, you have to embrace the failure that comes your way and redefine it. Failure is only feedback. And three is you have to avoid the negative self-talk. Shut that thing down. But going back to the second point around embracing the failure, I hold up a stack of papers this thick. It's 55 pages of jokes I've written over the past few years. It's single line, small font, front and back. There is so much failure in that stack of paper of jokes that will never see the light of day. And it's like that old 80-20 rule. So, I'm a professional comedian. This may come as a shock to you. I've never done drugs in my life. But when I go back and read these jokes I wrote, I was like, Tim, what were you smoking when you wrote that? It's not even funny. Like, what? So I don't use those. But then like 20% of them, I'll go back and be like, yeah, I could see that's kind of funny. I'll take it to the stage and try it in an open mic or just kind of weave it in somehow and see how it goes. And then 80% of those will fail too.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. But then the 20% that I'm stuck with, that makes the travel team, and that works day in and day out, almost every time, but not every time. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yes, that failure. If the first time I told a joke, I'm like, oh, they didn't laugh at me, I feel self-conscious. I'm not doing this anymore. I would have
Yeah.
missed out on all this experience over the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first time you went to the yoga class, you probably couldn't hold the warrior pose too, right?
Oh god, the first time I went to the reason I got into yoga is I had a very bad back, and I was popping Motrins like they were Tic Tacs. And my wife said, "Have you ever tried yoga? I heard it's good for your back." I was like, "I'll try anything," because I was about to have to go on some other meds that I didn't want to go on.
Yeah.
And I remember it was me. Yeah, I actually do a joke about this, but it was me and all women. If you go to a yoga class, because this was like 15, 16 years ago today, I go into a class today, sometimes it's majority male. It has become broga,
Yeah.
but not when I started. So it was me and all women, and I had my socks on. The teacher had to come back and be like, "Oh, take your socks off."
Yeah. You'll slip.
So I was very much out of my comfort zone, but I stuck with it.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I can touch my toes. I have greater flexibility. My back's not hurting as much." And it's become once again, a very rich experience for me for the past 15 to 17 years, however long I've been doing it. And when I think about all the health benefits I've gotten, uh,
Yeah.
clearing your mind as well, there's a whole mental aspect, as you know. And
Yes.
then all the relationships that I have formed through yoga as well. So looking back, if I just said, "Oh man, it's just a bunch of women and I was wearing my socks and I'm embarrassed, I'm not going back," I would have missed out on all that.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's also stepping out of your comfort zone, not just
Right.
attending the class, but being among people like other people or other women and being the
Yeah.
only male in the room. I mean that's a huge I don't know. I would feel uncomfortable too, like, if I was in the situation that you are. So good for you. And you're right, right? A failure is everywhere in our lives.
Mhm.
Like you write an email and it doesn't go well, and you keep on beating yourself up, right? At work. And that's failure. But well, you learn from it. Okay, maybe I should have worded it like this, or maybe I should have waited to respond. And that's a learning lesson from that email experience. But
Yeah.
this is like something very small. Same thing, especially for I'm a nutritionist too, so I coach people on nutrition, and trust me, it's not easy. It seems easy, but it's not. It's not easy. But because nutrition is a lot of experimentation, a lot of failures,
Yeah.
because you don't know what your body likes, right? So you have to figure it out. You have to experiment, see what suits your body, what really suits the goals that you want to accomplish, or what you can eat to accomplish those goals. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, no, we cannot eat fish ever, just so you know. Like, no, but you should try it, right?
Exactly, right. Yeah, if you
Right.
redefine it as feedback or failure is merely feedback. So if I tell a joke that bombs or doesn't work, to use a better term, the audience is just telling me that's not funny. And so that's the feedback I take. Now I could either rewrite it. I can try it with other audiences. See, I'm not going to ban if I think it's a good joke, and if the first time I tell it it doesn't work, I'm not going to throw it out because one audience didn't like it. So, and the same thing comes like if you're in sales and you're trying to outreach to prospects and you send out 100 emails and no one's responded, that's feedback that you might want to rework that email. That's feedback that you may want to use the phone instead of email. It's merely feedback. It's not failure.
No, it's not. It's not. It's exactly not. And getting out on the stage, right? I mean, I do that as a public speaker. Every time I go and present a workshop at a corporation, or I'm speaking at a conference, I know that, I made 10 mistakes
Mhm.
during that. Like, there's no way that I can have a perfect or nearly perfect event. Like, it's not possible. Again, there's audience involved. I have my own nerves. Well, something in the tech didn't go well, right? The microphone didn't work. Something didn't work. The lights didn't work. Okay, but what did you learn from it? And can you improve? Can you take some steps to improve it the next time you go and speak? I always
Yeah.
say that to myself, like, oh yeah, what could you change? What well, I give posture workshops at corporations, and we do postural health exercises, like how to improve your posture at desk. And sometimes I mean, initially when I first started out 3 years ago, I was giving exercises that uh, people were like, we can't do this at work, like we can't like, like, yeah, right, we cannot get into this position at work. And then I was thinking to myself, oh, hang on, yeah, you need to change this. You can accomplish the same stretch, or you can have the same stretch with another form of with another pose that's more conducive to work environment. So you always learn, always learn.
Well, the thing
And
about too, when you said you got up on stage, made 10 mistakes, here's the other learning from that. The audience probably didn't recognize any of them.
yeah, at least not 10, maybe one.
No,
Maybe.
very common, like for our comedians, for us to forget a joke or something that we wanted to add. But when we get done, the audience didn't know I left part of the joke out. It's
Yeah,
all right. Yeah, nobody
yeah.
noticed. We think everybody notices everything, but they don't.
They don't. That's oh, I think this is the best lesson out of this conversation. Really, people don't notice what you're noticing.
Yeah,
So yeah, but it doesn't mean that you don't make a mental note of it, or take a mental note
yeah.
of it and improve next time. But yeah, people are not noticing at least half of the things that you're noticing.
Mhm.
So if you step outside your comfort zone, you will develop stamina and mental fortitude, and you will have more self-confidence, you will have more agency, you'll expand your world with the relationships, with the rich relationships that you create, you'll have a larger community that you are known in, and all of that is just amazing. It feels amazing at the end of the day. So that's all the more reason why to step out of your comfort zone and also start taking care of your health and well-being. It does involve changes, yes, but changes are okay, and experimentation is okay. Everything will not work, you will fail along the way, but that's the way to understand what works for your body and what works for your mind and what works for you, what works for your family, right? Because you're not working in a vacuum. No matter what you're doing, if you are presenting a workshop, or you're a comedian, or you're embarking on a health journey, you're doing this with your significant other, your kids at home, you're doing this with others. So all of that plays a huge role. So you have to see what really works for you, but the only way to find out what works for you is to try it. So
Yes.
yeah.
Take
Any
action.
any parting thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, I want to encourage you. When I finish my talks, I have the handout, top 25 things you can do to get out of your comfort zone. So I would encourage everyone to do one thing over the next 30 days that's out of your comfort zone. That's simple, because that could start a whole snowball effect that you'll look back on. This podcast is changing your life, and you have all these rich experiences and relationships because you took one step out of your comfort zone. That's my ask of the audience.
Oh, that's wonderful. So where can the audience find that handout, and where can they connect with you if they wanted to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just go to timconniff.com. And that's my website. I have my upcoming schedule on there. If somebody wants to come out and see a comedy show, they can contact me through there. If they want to talk about doing a corporate show or a community event, for my keynote talk or comedy, I could do either. So yeah, reach out. I'm on Instagram at Tim Conniff, and of course LinkedIn.
Awesome. I'm going to drop all those links on the show notes. Thank you so much, Tim. This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for listening, everyone. And make sure that you connect with Tim. His handout, I've had it at an event, and it's amazing. You should try some of those things, if not all. Thank you, everyone. Bye.